But I am a lot of things. My primary practice right now is a focus on intellectual property. And my impact, I would say legally, I was always drawn to practice in intellectual property at an early age. I come from a musically inclined family. My father is a jazz musician, and he held weekly rehearsals at our house. So just hearing that live indigenous music every week, we by default had to play an instrument or use our voice in some capacity. And I also remember watching him copyright his own music compositions and publish his own music catalog. And I thought this was something that I would like to do as a service to clients one day, or artists, entertainers who are independent. Um, in addition to that, I have youthful beginnings in radio. I was recruited from Cass Technical High School to participate in the Don Bosco training program. And I worked at 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park Radio, went over to 90.9 WDTR, which was a Detroit Public Schools owned station at the time. It was sold off after the emergency manager came in and pretty much dismantled the curriculum. But that was some of my early beginnings in radio. Then I went on to Michigan State University, where I majored in telecommunications and worked at 88.9 Impact. Then 92.3 WJLB was probably my last stint in radio. And that's when I realized it was less of it shifted from like a community-based community engagement listenership to this corporate greed mentality. It was a lot of conglomerate companies coming in and buying up the stations. It was a lot of mergers and acquisitions at the time, oligarchs, and it was getting really political. And I thought this would be a good time now to go back and pursue what I've always had a passion for, which was intellectual property law. So that's what I did, and I've been practicing now for 11 years.
Okay, all right. So 11 years. So that's kind of a backstory. We have live listeners who are watching us live now. So if you are joining us live and you have a question or comment for our guest, please put it in the chat. Try to recognize you. We want to thank Jewel for tuning in. She said at first she couldn't hear us, but I made sure I checked the sound so she can hear us now. Okay. So if you missed a little bit of the introduction, I'll read it. I'll recap some of that bio because I want to make sure she gets all her flowers. But thank you for tuning in. So you mentioned you went to Cass. When you were in high school, was it at that time you thought about going into law, or when did this whole desire to go into the legal field, when did that start?
So I've always kind of desired it. I didn't have a lot of focus on it in high school. I was more focused on entertainment and radio, and I actually majored in telecommunications at Michigan State. Okay. So I had like a lot of audio production courses, marketing classes, but I did take a business law class. Okay. And so I excelled extremely in business law, and I saw there was something that I was really good at and that I really enjoyed. So I knew, I would say for Michigan State, I knew I wanted to go on and pursue law. I took a couple years off and worked in radio. And then that's when I decided to venture back to where my passion really lied.
Okay. And so what was it about the radio industry and broadcasting that fascinated you?
Just being recruited at 14 to participate in that program. That Don Bosco training program was really what propelled my radio career. I think back then we had those different, like, I don't know, co-ops, different DAPs that you had different programming. Botech. So I think those are instrumental really for children and youth who don't necessarily know what they want to pursue, to have those different programming, different opportunities to create a career focus.
Okay. And was you interested in the on-air talent or behind the scenes, or?
A little bit of both. I did promotions, and I would do some guest on air, guest spots, but I think I was more technical. I like to set up live broadcasts, and a lot of women didn't have that skill set then. So
Okay.
I was getting called in to do things, that was not normally done by Black women at the time. Pretty much, I could syndicate an entire program at that time. So I was really hands-on and really technical, which helps in my career today. I deal with a lot of tech-based companies, and we have to protect and secure their source code, their metadata, things of that nature. So that really helped in terms of the technology and increase my facet of learning.
Wow. So you was kind of like a producer behind the scenes, orchestrating how. Wow, that's interesting. Wow. Okay. All right. So that served as the groundwork and the experience to what you're doing today. Now you went to now I know I just read it. The law school, Michigan State.
I went to Michigan State for undergrad. And then Western Cooley.
Oh, Western Cooley for
my law degree.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And I know that I have friends who are attorneys, and they specialize, family law, criminal, tax, corporate, whatever. Is there a specific area of study in law that relates to what you do today?
Yep, intellectual property. Intellectual property is essentially anything created from the mind. It's an intangible asset, but it's your property. You created it, so you want to protect it just as you would protect your real property.
Right.
So, for instance, you're not going to transact the sale of a home without a deed.
Right.
You're not going to purchase a car without the certificate of title. So, intellectual property has 4 different ways to protect it. Copyrights, trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. So you're not going to want to transact or put anything out there without first having secured and acquired some protection for your intellectual property.
Okay. That's great. So let's get into the topics. We want to talk about copyrights, trademarks, intellectual property, and how to monetize your work. So copyrights, let's start with that, because we're in a creative economy, basically. I mean, everybody has some form of creation, whether they're creating posts on Instagram, TikTok, writing songs. And I'll share something personal because I'm a podcaster. Me and a friend did a reaction video to Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. And I thought under YouTube, by doing a commentary reaction, that it fell under YouTube's what do they call it? Fair use. But one of the things they muted was the music, because that was I don't know if that was NFL or I don't know what Kendrick Lamar signed up. They signed on these different companies, but it was muted. But they notified me by email, said it was a copyright strike. Yeah. And if you have so many on YouTube, you can actually run the risk of having your channel taken off or demonetized or anything. So that segues into, so what, explain to, in layman's terms, what is a copyright and how do people get that started?
So copyright is anything, well, it's fixed in a tangible medium of expression. Okay, so authorship, whatever you create, you're the sole author and you have the right to make copies. Okay, so that's essentially what it is. It's giving you the right to duplicate and to monetize and to distribute your work of authorship, whether that's a song, a play, a film, a recipe, a video game, whatever that expressive material is, you have the sole right as the author to make copies. In this instance, I tell my clients who are creatives and who are influencers and content creators, you want to familiarize yourself with the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Okay. What's that called again?
The DMCA.
DMCA. Okay.
And really what it does is it shifts the liability off of the platform. So for YouTube, for instance, as being the infringer. Okay. So if you post something that's infringing, they have automation, certain technology that they use where they can detect this is hasn't been licensed to you,
Right.
and they will pull it down. And then there are some exceptions, as you mentioned, fair use. So you also want to familiarize yourself with the fair use doctrine. The fair use doctrine, it grants certain exceptions where you can use copyrighted material. And it's usually, like you said, for commentary, newsworthy, education. But there are a lot of nuances to that law as well.
Okay.
So parody is another one. Right. However, you cannot just go and use a recording of someone's work. Now, you could probably make the same commentary that you guys were making.
If we did a still picture, would that have been okay?
Perhaps.
Instead of playing them, because we wanted to have the whole feel. We play a little bit of the songs, and then we react to it, and we stop, and I thought we were okay, but no, they was like, nah, we're gonna mute you.
Again, it depends on how the platform has those automations in place. Everyone's not on it like YouTube, so you could have probably gotten away on, I don't know, some other.
Now I think on Facebook it didn't. I don't know if it's caught it because I was on different.
Different so it may work on another platform.
YouTube was like they sent me an email or NFL, one of them. It was
okay. Yeah, they're pretty vigilant, and you should be the same way as YouTube. Artists and creators, you want to be vigilant in enforcing your protection, your content, and your trademarks from being used and misappropriated. So you should be the same way as YouTube, making sure that no one's using your work. A client of mine, Ron Dalton, who wrote Hebrews to Negroes film, he calls me at least monthly to report another YouTube user streaming his movie for free. So we have to constantly go in and pull those works down, but he's constantly on top of it, recognizing when his movie's being streamed outside of his platforms. He has his own streaming platform where you have to pay to watch his movie.
Behind a paywall. Okay.
Yeah. So you have to be vigilant as well as artists and creators.
All right. So someone creates their original work, whether it's a song, a t-shirt, maybe a book. What's the steps to protect them from having someone use it? Just like you said, your client. How do they get protected under copyright law?
Well, the first step I would take is creating a legal entity if you haven't already done that, because you want to separate yourself from any type of tax liabilities or any other type of liabilities when it comes to your works, your goods and your services. So if you haven't done that, created some type of LLC corporation, I would urge you to be the first step. Secondarily, you want to, I would say even more importantly, you want to make sure the name is available, whatever your endeavors are. For instance, the name of your podcast show, you want to make sure that that's available for use before you expend all of this time and resources and effort into marketing and branding something that someone else is using, or they're using a similar name or design or logo. And quite frankly, that should be a part of your startup expenses, is securing that trademark protection before you start branding very heavily. Those are just a couple of steps. I know a lot of people attempt to do their own trademarks.
Now, what does that mean? Trying to do it just
so you don't have to be a lawyer to file a trademark. A lay person can file a trademark, but I always advise seeking legal counsel, just because in my 11 years of practice, I still haven't seen every rejection, but I've seen more than someone would have saw at their first attempt. Okay. And 9 out of 10 applications are rejected. So instead of, paying an attorney on the back end to correct these deficiencies, I think you're going to expend more money that way, as opposed to just hiring an attorney outright to correctly file it. Again, there's a lot of nuances in the applications, and you have to just disclose all of the metes and bounds of your designs. And it's just a lot that a layperson may not necessarily want to endeavor with.
Wow, you said some interesting things. So I think the one nugget you shared, I hope our audience picked up on it, was that before you even dive into what you're trying to create, you want to see if somebody else hasn't come up with the same idea,
Absolutely.
whether it's a name or of a company or a trademark. And what is the top 3 ways to search that? Does that just go to the U.S. Trade
Yeah, so
website or
the USPTO.gov, that's
Mhm.
the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Okay.
And you could run what we call like a knockout preliminary search just to see what comes up. Again, I caution lay people from using that as a sole dependent on whether the mark is available or not, because there are some things that you may not necessarily know in association with what comes up. So you may not even type it in to its full extent. It may not pop up any varied versions of the word. So you just want to be careful with that. And I always tell clients to Google your trademark just to see what comes up. So I would definitely go to Google and then go on the different social media sites to make sure the handle's available. So if the handle's not available, that's just one clear, one clear thing that's telling you, okay, well, someone's using this trademark already in commerce. And also do a search for the domain name.
All right. So domain name, U.S. Trade Office website, go on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yes.
Do the handle search. What about at least for people in Michigan, I always go to business entity searches as well for a business name.
So that's important as well. And that's actually a common misconception is where people file and register their business in Michigan or any state for that matter, they feel like they own the name. That does not grant any ownership interest in the name. That's simply allowing you to conduct business in that state. So it's giving you a legal entity, but you have no ownership interest in that name itself. You have to go through the trademark office if you want to own that name and to prevent others from using
getting that
it.
name. All right. So how do we prevent people from what we call in the streets hustling backwards? So they go, they file their business name, the LLC, they get the EIN number, but they don't own the trademark, or they pay someone off of Fiverr to do a logo and with their name, and they got it all out there. They put it on T-shirts, coffee mugs, business cards.
I mean, that's the risk you take.
So what happens?
So I don't know what happens.
I mean, a lot of my business friends, I mean, to be honest, that's what we're like, well, we did the entity search on Michigan Law, website. We went on Google. It was nobody had the name. We maybe went to the U.S. Trade Office website, and then we think it's ours. So,
well, it's yours until someone knocks on your door and sends you a cease and desist or a demand letter. So, I mean, it's yours. Essentially, you're doing what they call a common law trademark. So you're practicing. I mean, you're using your trademark commercially. So you do have some inherent common law rights. Towever, that doesn't prevent the next person from duplicating exactly what you're doing with your exact words because you never took the extra step to register it.
All right. So break down some of the ways that we can not hustle backwards and
call me.
Call you. Okay. All right.
I mean, and I'll get you lined up.
So let's now. So I think in trademarks, break down what is a trademark, because I think there's different. There's a logo. I think a Nike, is that a trademark?
Nike's a trademark. So Nike has several trademarks. They have the word Nike. They have the swoosh, the design.
Oh, so they have.
That's a trademark.
Okay.
Just do it. Their slogan is trademark.
Oh, trademark. Okay.
So they have several trademarks, depending on how you want your brand protected and how strong you want the protection. You can do the word itself to trademark the word itself, the alliteration of the word, as well as the design. So if you have a logo, you can also do what they call a composite trademark.
Okay.
And we can protect the design in conjunction with the word. So, it just depends on your brand and how you want the public eye to see it, the visibility, and that's what you should protect.
Okay. And intellectual property, is that like writing a book, or how would you define intellectual property?
Anything created by the mind. So that does include writing a book. It could be a painting, photographer's work, any type of photos. This podcast series is intellectual property. So you will want to protect each episode by copywriting them. And you could do a compilation of copyright, so you don't have to just individually do each one. But anything that you create that's expressive in nature is your intellectual property, and you definitely want to protect it. I caution people from sharing ideas, pitching ideas before you have some type of protection, or at least a non-disclosure agreement in place. You want to be careful, with that.
Okay. And so what happens if you get a cease and desist? If you thought that your idea or your trademark was safe?
Call a lawyer. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go it alone,
Yeah.
That's a tough, I don't know. It depends on, it's a case by case basis, really.
And what some of the cases have you seen where people ran into problems?
I see it all the time. Honestly, to avoid all of that, so I'm a proactive attorney. Okay, I don't litigate necessarily.
Right.
So my whole thing is keeping my clients out of court. So I'm doing everything on the front end to make sure, that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, so they won't encounter a cease and desist or a demand letter. If anything, we're the ones sending them out. Okay, so I do more of that type of work, transactional work, opposed to responding to cease and desist. Now, we do at certain times have to respond to them, or opposition actions or cancellation actions where they actually try to cancel your trademark or oppose it because they've been using it prior to you. So it comes up quite often.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So that's a great segue on how people can work with you and the services that you provide. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we're gonna come back and talk more about the services you provide and how you can help people to protect their intellectual property, file their copyrights, and also establish the trademarks. So we'll be right back with this after this quick announcement.
Hey, Detroit. Are you a Detroit area small business owner, entrepreneur, leader of a nonprofit organization, or a business service provider? And are you looking for ways to share your product, service, or your programs with a local Detroit audience? Let us help you increase your reach by becoming an ad sponsor with the Detroit Metro Plug podcast, powered by Empower You Ventures. Our weekly video podcast is a growing local feature on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn that focuses on local business and community news. This gives you a chance to connect with local Detroit customers or clients. We offer cost-effective ads to fit your needs. Click the link to learn more about our current ad specials. And remember, connections matter. This is Charlie the Plug with the Detroit Metro Plug podcast.
All right, so we're back. Thank you for those who were enjoying this episode 153, where we've been talking about protect your ideas with attorney Mikai Green. We've been talking about copyrights, trademarks, intellectual property, and for specifically for our entrepreneurs and creatives, not to hustle backwards, to make sure you're protecting yourself from litigation or someone stealing your idea. And with that, we want to talk specifically how someone can work with someone like you to make sure that they don't do that they protect their property and be able to monetize. So I'm not sure if you want me to share the website or your contact information or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if someone creates something, what's their first step with working with you? What do they need to do?
Yeah. So it's funny. I met Charles at the UAD Entrepreneurship Clinic, and I always enjoy guest speaking and guest lecturing at events like that because it gives me an opportunity to meet some amazing entrepreneurs doing some dynamic things such as Charles. And I can offer a unique perspective because I'm an entrepreneur myself. So I have a company that I co-founded, Green Water, and Green Water is the only alkaline antiviral atmospheric water on the market. And my dad, he's actually the scientist behind the formula. Right now, we're in a phase where we're trying to secure a bottling source that will properly preserve the shelf life of the healing properties in the water. I'm also the founder of Trap Tours. Trap Tours is a sightseeing company, and we tour the homes of legendary Detroiters such as Aaliyah, Jimmy Hoffa, Malcolm X, Joe Louis, and several others. So being an entrepreneur myself, I'm able to share, my experience and just really have a more transparent outlook on helping you whatever stage you're in, whether you're at the seed level or you're at a level where you're ready to franchise. So in contacting me, it's pretty seamless. I actually offer complimentary 15-minute consultations, and you can book that on my website. I think Charles is going to throw the handle up there in the domain. So it's a pretty seamless process. Just reach out on my website or call, or you can direct message me on Instagram, Facebook. But I want to help you for sure.
Okay. We have a question from a viewer. Thank you, Jewel, for supporting independent media. The question is, what is the impact of use of AI in creating ownership? I have heard of people who have had their books rejected by Amazon. I don't know.
Yeah. So AI has been an emerging recent topic, and for good reason. We just don't really know the fate of any type of creativity. And, we saw this a few years back when the whole Hollywood went on strike. The SAG-AFTRA Guild went on strike because they were using digital doubles as actors instead of the real actors. They were using AI actors and AI written scripts instead of real writers and directors. So they ended up settling, saying you have to have their consent to use their digital double, which is their name, image, and likeness. And you have to have their consent to use an AI written script. So in terms of copywriting AI, right now, human authorship is a bedrock foundation of a copyright. So a bot or a machine cannot file for copyright protection. Okay, there has to be some human input. So if you totally relied on the generative AI to create your work, it's going to be rejected. Now, if you added some, I would say, not substantial, but some amount of human creativity where you did it, you inputted your own thoughts or your own words, then you could possibly copyright, but you would still have to make those exclusions that were not written or authored by you.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for that question, because I use ChatGPT kind of as a thought companion when I'm shooting ideas, and I kind of, I may use their idea or I may not. But I didn't know. They think about like somebody like a writer. If I guess, can they detect if a certain percentage is AI? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's programs like even in grad school, they had a program they could tell if you wrote the paper or not, because they'll scan the paper and they'll see how you cited things, and they could tell if something wasn't you know, was a little
they
off.
have
Yeah.
some smart software now. It's pretty much reverse engineering. You know, they can just see if it was a direct copy from the AI, so you can reverse engineer and find that information.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with using generative AI for expressions.
I'm going to show our audience. They're going to see the the website for Green Law Virtual.
Thank you.
So that's showing now. Green Law Virtual Intellectual Property. And I saw, I think a friend of mine had a testimony on here. Look, Julie Pierce. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with Miss Green. She provided information and guidance. Yeah, that's a friend of mine.
Yeah, I don't think she retained us, but we will give you some guidance, you know, with that initial consultation. I don't think I ever worked with Julie after that.
Oh, okay. I just know that. I thought that was
no, I do put some of the testimonials on our website.
And then I think you also do for generational wealth, you do asset protection or will and trust?
I do. Estate planning, some asset protection goes into that. In terms of setting up a living trust. I feel like that's something that, you know, you definitely want to discuss with your attorney, especially if you're dealing with intellectual property, because you're creating residual wealth and royalties. You want to make sure that that's passed on to your estate after you have transcended. So it's an important discussion to have. And I really do it as a service to my already existing clients, just to make sure they have all of their affairs in order.
Okay. Yeah. So there's like a little video. I think you kind of explained what you do with the asset.
Can you play that one?
Yeah, I can play that one. Yeah, so the audience can see. Hit that one.
I'm attorney Mikai Green, and now more than ever, it's important to plan for the future by securing a legacy for our loved ones. The primary way to create generational wealth is by having a proper will or trust. Our firm is here to help you create an essential estate plan with comfort, ease, and at minimal cost. Give us a call today at 313-413-1487 or visit greenlawvirtual.com to schedule your complimentary 15-minute consultation.
Okay. All right. So we get one-stop shop. Protect your intellectual property, trademarks, get your trademarks established, copyrights. Now, what's usually from start to finish? How long would it take to get a trademark for your logo established that you own it and no one else can use? Is that a lengthy process, or?
Yeah, that's
I'm pretty sure
question.
with you it goes.
Well, yeah, I try to streamline it, definitely, for sure, because the trademark office, for some reason, it seems to be backlogged since the pandemic, and now it takes, I would say, a year to process the application. But caveat is, so once we file and submit your application, you'll have priority from that date of submission. So it's kind of like a patent pending date. So I always urge clients to let's get it in, get it filed, and then that's when the waiting game starts at that point. And it could take up to a year. It's a lengthy process, but once it's filed, you should feel confident in using and branding and marketing your trademark.
Okay. All right. So there's potentially other people who do the work you do. What would you say is unique about you and the services you provide that our audience will need to know about?
Yeah, so I would say uniquely, I'm me. I'm very I'm very compassionate about helping others, and my clients, they really feel like as soon as we talk, it's like a weight lifted off of their shoulder, and they know that they're in good hands. Very transparent about my work, very efficient, and the turnover is quite, I would say, comparable. I don't see anyone getting results done and accomplished as fast as myself. Very proficient, kind-hearted. You know,
Mhm.
my clients tell me I'm a delight to work with, so I would
Okay.
like to think they're not lying.
All right.
And I get 80% of my clients are referral based.
Okay.
So I must be doing something right, you know.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
most of it are attorneys referring me. So
Okay.
they're confiding in me and trusted in me to service clients of theirs. So I
Okay.
would say, yeah, I'm just well
right.
respected.
Okay. All right. I like you kind of summarized kind of a key word, kind-hearted.
Kind-hearted. I
Yeah,
am very
yes.
kind-hearted.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and just based on even your preparation for today, it seems like you're very thorough.
I'm very thorough.
You
I
came in
can't
with
afford
notes and
not to be.
everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We got another question from our audience. Entrepreneurs often have several iterations of their idea, and waiting to do this can be very costly. Is a single application enough, or does it have to be continued to be updated?
So I had a potential client send me over. They asked me to run a search of some names that they were thinking about in terms of it was a apparel brand, and they wanted to protect all of these different slogans. So they sent me over a list of about 100 names, and I texted them back and said, "Okay, choose one." So
you had to file for, isn't it like 250 or something?
it's $350
Oh,
now.
350?
It went
Okay.
up this new administration.
New administration.
Yeah.
New administration. I don't know if it's
So,
a tariff.
yeah,
or...
things went up. Or inflation. But
right, yeah.
so ideally you want to be recognized for a single name or a single image, just like Nike. Okay. So when you see that switch mark, you know it's Nike.
Right.
So you don't want to have these several different iterations because now people are confused. We don't know who the source of the origin is, like who was the actual developer or manufacturer, because there's so many different iterations. So you want to hone in on one particular name that you can brand. And that doesn't mean you can't change the designs, or you can have, different, I would say, like accessories or things of that nature, but they know the brand and image belongs to that particular company.
Okay. All right. So pick one, stick with your main core brand. Wow. So if entrepreneur, what is a budget to get this stuff started, to work with you and to?
So I'm pretty reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, and my prices are comparable. I try to be affordable as possible. I even take installment plans, because it's not, it's an investment. Your business is an investment.
Right.
So you have to look at it as startup expenses or business expenses. They can be written off, so that's a good thing. But a budget, it really just depends on what your pursuit is, what your business model looks like. A budget for a film company is going to be a lot different than from a shoe sign company, for instance, or a landscape artist. They may not need a trademark. They may just need, someone to draft their terms and conditions, or liabilities, or something that may happen. Let's say you're using chemicals or some sprays or something on a yard. You just may need a contract. So I don't. Each business requires a different budget. So I don't really like to.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
Theorize.
I'm showing as you were answering. I'm showing the audience your website.
Okay.
Your handles on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Thank you.
And so if they want to discover more, they can reach out to you.
For sure.
And your commercial had the number, so I guess they can call that number.
Call, and I'll give you a quote. First time we talk, I'll give you a quote.
Now, do you limit yourself to? I know you're based in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you limit yourself to just area, or you work with clients all across the country, or?
Yeah, so my practice is virtual. Yeah, even international at times. I have clients who are in Canada and they may need a U.S. trademark. Yeah. So I do have international clients as well, but it's a virtual practice. So, clients enjoy that. I don't have to necessarily be in the state or have reciprocity in that state to practice unless we're going to court. But I service clients in California.
So you don't have
Texas.
to have a bar in different states?
Only if you're going to be sworn in and have to litigate.
Okay.
something.
Okay.
So at that point, I would reach out to my network and then get someone
Okay.
that's
Right.
barred in that state to
Mhm.
handle the matter going forward.
Okay. So I want to encourage our audience. If you're thinking about trademark, you got an idea, or you already started your business and you're trying to make sure you protect your intellectual property, your trademarks, your logos, your copyrights. We have our website here, www.greenlawvirtual.com. You can also follow her on Instagram at greenlaw_virtual. Facebook, if you're a Facebooker. There's the website link to the Facebook page, Greenlaw Virtual Intellectual Property PC. You can follow her, see what's going on with her, with our guests on LinkedIn. So there you have it. And we showed that commercial. What's that number again? I don't know if you.
It's 313-413-1487. You can call, text, or leave a message.
Okay, call, text, or leave a message. So as we wrap things up, just kind of get our audience to know a little bit more about you. How would you say, I already asked you what made you unique. What motivates you, and how do you like to service your clients?
Helping people is really what motivates me and gives me the ignition to continue doing what I do. Just seeing their comfortability and steadfastness and being at ease, you know, once I am retained, they pretty much, they trust the process from there. And that's what motivates me, because they know I'm going to deliver, you know, undoubtedly I always deliver results. So overall, helping people, making a difference.
That's great. That's great. I want to. So this platform is about giving people their flowers and celebrating the positive contributions that our guests provide in the city of Detroit. And just the word of mouth of a friend of mine, attorney, is a friend, talked about the work you do. And then you've done some work for some other people that are friends of mine. And I don't know if people know, we talked about copyrights, trademarks, and intellectual property, but you also help with people with contracts, operation agreements. And is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you work with, that you cover, that you can help entrepreneurs and families with in regards to these areas?
Yeah, that's pretty the gambit of things that I do. Primarily, my practice is intellectual property, but corporations and forming nonprofits.
Okay, yeah. So we didn't talk about that.
I do that.
You help
as
the
well.
people form.
I help them form it, and I keep them in compliance. So you have to have 990 filing annually. You have to make certain disclosures. So I make sure that you stay compliant and in good standing with all your companies, quite frankly. Yeah.
So you help with the filing of the what do you call it? The 501c3?
The tax exemption. Yep, 501c3 filing.
Because I pulled that document up and it looks intimidating to me.
It can be.
I'm going to have to hire somebody.
Yeah, it can be intimidating. You want to make sure you have all of their financial projections, 3 years out. So I think that's one of the doozies of the application. But call me. I'll get you together.
All right. So as we close out, any announcements or anything you want to share our audience? You got something upcoming or you want people to know about?
Nothing to announce, but just stay on the lookout on my Instagram, which is greenlaw_virtual, for any future events or any announcements or any engagements that I'm going to be doing. Or you can follow me on Facebook as well. I make more updates on there, and also LinkedIn. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to share that again so our audience will. So there is the handles. Website, www.greenlawvirtual.com. You can follow our guest Instagram at greenlaw_virtual, Facebook, Greenlaw Virtual Intellectual Property, and LinkedIn. There's that there. So thank you for being a guest on the show and sharing. And for those who are finding value in what we're doing, please support our guests doing some great work here. Not just as she said, not just in the Detroit area. I know I focus on Detroit what's happening here. But for those who may watch this across the country or, in other countries, as you said, she has a virtual practice. You can reach out to her. She can help you out with some copyright, trademark, or intellectual property things. So again, I just want to thank you for your time and being on this show.
Thank you for having
making
me.
this a great episode. And those who are finding value in what we're doing, please like, share, subscribe, make comments, and that helps the algorithm. Let the social media streets know that positive, informative content, as we call it, edutainment, education, attainment, entertainment, is important too. So with that being said, just want to wish everybody a good night. Thanks again for tuning in, and we want to thank our guests again.
Thank you. Good night.
Hey everyone, this is Charlie the Plug, your host of the Detroit Metro Plug podcast, powered by Empower You Ventures. Don't forget to subscribe so you too can be a part of the biggest empowerment network on YouTube and Facebook. We bring you weekly interviews of Detroit difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship, community involvement, also reaction to business news and community news. This does not happen without your support. Thank you.